Hello and welcome to the very first introductory episode of I Finally Got Around to. Basically, a little show I'm going to start doing, not weekly, but whenever I feel like it, where I'm just going to talk about things that I maybe missed out on when they had a lot of excitement and just general talk about around, whether it be movies or video games or whatever, really. Maybe even books in the future, but hey, we don't know. um, but yeah, I just wanted to make a show that wasn't just entirely music, of course, and I wanted to talk about other things because I of course do other things aside from just listen to music, and yeah. So here today we're going to be talking about Watch Dogs 4 years later. Let's not worry about the date, but yeah, 4 years later. Um, I've had the game since day one of release, and I was excited for it just like everybody else with the E3 trailer and a lot of other trailers in between and after. Um, and I'm just generally here to talk about a lot of the pros and cons, what people thought 4 years ago and what it's like now. After patches and all the DLC was released for it and such. Um, so, yeah. And unlike discography discussion, there's not a lot of visuals here, so don't worry about it. I'm just going to change to a very generic wallpaper style Watch Dogs picture, basically. So feel free to do other things in the meantime while you're watching. Clean your room or do some work, homework, I don't know, do something. But yeah, this is basically just a listening show if you really want to listen to it. So let's get started. Watch Dogs was released in 2014, and like I said, I was excited for it pretty much, I would say, the year before it had come out. I remember a lot of trailers were coming about, nothing really any big up until that really huge E3 trailer, which showed it off and wanted a lot of awards at E3. I think it advertises it on the box, but I don't feel like going to grab the box. But yeah, I remember getting really excited about it and really excited in the fact that it takes place in Chicago, which is where I live and where I've grown up. So knowing Chicago like the back of my hand, it's like, oh, I now get to see Chicago in a video game world. And I remember getting so excited that I showed a whole bunch of other people the trailer when it came out, and I got them excited about it. And, you know, uh, I bought it, I played it for a couple hours when day one, and then I just kind of put it down and never really picked it up seriously again. A lot of years passed by where I would put it in for like maybe an hour or less even, and then just go on to play something else or do something else. But it was a lot of that over the course of the 4 years up until these past 2 months, basically, where I would just put it in and go, oh yeah, and just have a little fun, and then just put it away for who knows how long then. But now that it has all of its patches and all of its DLC and everything that could possibly be put in it to fix it, here I am to talk about it. And also, I don't know if you can hear them, but there's some really loud birds out right now, so I'm sorry about them. They're very loud, and I wish they would just be quiet. But then again, that's what I get for recording things at 6 a.m. in the morning. But hey, here we are to talk about Watch Dogs. So, I've gone through a lot of the original reviews of the game when it had come out. I would say like day 2, day 1, basically. There was some, of course, that were, I would say maybe the IGN rating that I have here was a review copy sort of thing, where it was like the couple days before it had actually come out. The other two, though, I would say were general sort of audience, like I got it, and kind of reviews. Along with, of course, someone writing out a full detailed review of what they thought. But a lot of the reviews confuse me. A lot of the ratings confuse me. IGN gave it an 8.4 with the word great. I should say, what is with that on IGN and on GameSpot? Why do they just put the word like great next to it? Like, I can guess based off of your number what you think about the game. If you give it a 1, I'm not going to go, oh, but you must think it's great. Of course you're going to think it's horrible. You don't have to put the word next to it. But IGN gave it an 8.4, GameSpot gave it an 8, and Metacritic, which is the one that I considered highly critical out of all of the review sites, I'd say maybe IGN and GameSpot are a little more biased in a sense, and I'm not saying that they get paid to do the reviews, but they're more so just inclined to not really try to talk bad about the companies. But that's not to say that they won't if games are bad, of course. But then again, that's all disproven by they gave Evolve a 9.0 when it came out, and that game is literally deader than dirt. And dirt is pretty alive. Metacritic gave it an 80 out of 100, which is insane to me. 80? Really? I get that the game is really fun and has a lot of great... I've sat here for hours playing it, yeah, but even while I was playing it, I was seeing a lot of the flaws that existed in the game. And so many other things that just weren't great. And granted, I get it. It's a new IP from Ubisoft, at least at the time. So, of course it's going to be a little weird when it kicks off. So was Assassin's Creed 1. I've technically never finished that game because I can't get through it. I get through maybe like 2 hours in and I go, this is just too weird. Then I go back to playing Assassin's Creed 2, which is 10 times better. I get it. But you would think after how many years? Let's see, 2009, I believe, or 2008 was when Assassin's Creed 1 came out. You would think in the time between, what is that, 6 years? Yeah, in the 6 years it took to get here, you would think they would, get better at a first IP, but, yeah, but then again, that happens all the time, so whatever. I'll give it a break that Watch Dogs was a break in the monotony of Ubisoft at the time, which was just a pretty much Assassin's Creed machine. They weren't really meant to, or not meant, they weren't really defined by anything else during that time, which is kind of sad, but hey, everybody goes through a rough patch. So it was, again, another thing that I was excited about for Watch Dogs. I was excited that it was a brand new IP, something, different. Something that was like, what? Yeah, I'm tired of sitting in Italy in the 1800s or whatever, the 1400s. Give me something now or the future. So, whatever. But, all in all, flaws there and not there. This game does not deserve an 8 out of 100, or 8 out of 10, or an 80 out of 100. That's absurd. Metacritic's rating is it's a 0 to a 100 scale because it's meant to be very specific, and you give it an even 80. It feels kind of lazy. It's sort of that thing nowadays where it's like, did you even play the game for longer than the first hour to really notice any of the very wrong things of the game? I'm not saying that the game has nothing good. There's a lot of really great things, but I gotta say, bar none, the bad overshadows the good in some places. And like I said, this is 4 years later that I'm playing this. And I'm playing it on a PS3, I should note that. And there aren't a lot of things that are very different from the PS3 to the PS4 version, sadly. Watch Dogs is advertised as a true next-gen experience sort of thing for the PS4 and the Xbox One. And sadly, it really wasn't that. If anything, I would say the Xbox 360 PS3 versions are almost exact mirrors of the next-gen versions, or I guess current-gen now, but still, they're mirrors of each other aside from graphical quality, which adds, better textures, of course, and other things, but that's all kind of superficial when you think about the games are fundamentally the same. And I know that's technically the advertising point for getting a brand new system is that, like, oh, it's got better graphics, but at the same time, the game shouldn't just aspire to be better graphics. It should aspire to be something ultimately better. Like, maybe there's physics in the PS4 and Xbox One version that aren't necessarily present in the PS3 360 version, but that's not the case. They're, like I said, mirrors of each other, aside from one mirror is finer than the other, and That's just stupid. Um, but let's go through some pros and cons. I'm going to switch between the two, a pro and a con. Um, but the main aspect of the game is the hacking. Uh, you live in a world or you live in Chicago rather, that's a little more technological than it is now, of course. Um, the city can be manipulated in ways that are basically meant for security, sort of, or not security, but defense and such. There's blockers in the street to stop a car from going as fast as it can and pretty much decapitate the human being, or if not, just absolutely ruin their neck. And make the car flip over. There's traffic light manipulation. There's explosions of all kinds. There's steam pipes that just blow up. You can stop a train or make a train go faster. You can do just a million and one different things. And there, of course, they have their uses in different places, whether it be on the road driving in a car, walking on the sidewalk, chasing someone who just committed a crime, things like that. And for a first try at it, the hacking is really well done. It's fast paced. It never feels like, oh, dang it, I missed it. I didn't do it right. It's really easy to use. That's a little bit of a flaw of it, of course, because it's like, why would it be this easy? But whatever. Let's just assume that it's the future or whatever. But it's always really easy to use. When you're chasing someone, you never feel like, oh, I gotta move my thumb over to a place that feels awkward. You always feel like, yes, okay, I can do this really easily. When you're driving, you never feel like, oh no, I can't turn at the same time I'll try to do this, because it's, like I said, very easy. And I'll give them that on their first try, they did that really well. I should also say, I have no prior knowledge of Watch Dogs 2 whatsoever, aside from it takes place in San Francisco, but regardless, I kind of just don't care. I'm strictly talking about the first one here. Yeah, but the hacking is really easy to use and really well done. You can do it easily. You can do it whenever you want. Whenever you see something that's manipulatable. I hope that's a word. Regardless, if you see something that can be changed or controlled in some way, you can go ahead and do it. The prompts are really easy to see. They always come up at times where you need them. The distances are never drastic. You can be a certain distance away and go, I'm gonna mess with that thing. Or if you feel like I'm too far away, you can always just keep walking forward and then mess with it. And of course, there you go. You've got it. Now, driving. I kind of mentioned it here that it's sort of a big aspect of the game, of course. Trying to get around Chicago walking around only is absolutely insane. Of course, you're going to need a car of some kind. The driving in this game is horrible. Horrible maybe is a little too harsh, but regardless, it's not. It's just not fantastic. It's not good at all. I remember when I had got the game, I brought it home, and I played it for a little bit. But again, like I said, I had put it away. And then a friend of mine was talking to me the next day, and he was like, yeah, the driving in that game is not great. And I was like, really? I haven't had a chance to mess with it. He's like, yeah, I got a... What is he? I have a pro tip. I have a little tip for you. What? Don't touch the right stick. And I went, okay. Went home, put it in again, played it, and he was right. Just do not touch the camera stick at all. It is wonky. The sensitivity on the camera for the car is insane, and it will for some reason throw you off and make you think you're turning wrong. And I don't know how that works. I'm relatively good at driving in most games. And in here it just felt weird. It was like, oh no. I started turning the camera and I go, oh god. And the camera just overall is just not fantastic. Granted, it does have an auto camera situation where if you take a right turn, the camera will reset itself to be behind the car. So you don't absolutely have to touch the camera stick. But if there's situations in which you're trying to drive away from a lot of cops or a lot of, I forget what they're called, but they're sort of just the mercenary people who will just shoot at you for no reason. Trying to drive as fast as you can and drift and make sure you don't hit civilians and such is really difficult with that camera. And yeah, I would say after a couple of hours, you sort of start to get used to it, where it's not necessarily as difficult to turn and such. But it is really hard still. Like, even like when I would put the game down, of course, to go to sleep or do whatever, when I would get back into it, I would have to teach myself again how to do it all over because it was just really difficult. It was just not fun. Um, the other thing is cars handle like garbage. Um, Even the cars that are meant to be like the high end sort of handle the handling on the cars is like really high. Even those feel way too much like it's like you're driving on ice basically. It's just slip sliding around and trying to not hit a human being on the sidewalk is just almost impossible at sometimes unless the road is really wide. The braking on them are all horrible. I've had so many situations where I went, oh no, and I started to slam the brakes because I knew I was going to go straight into the river or the whatever, the lake, whichever it was, just a body of water. And I would not stop in time at all. I would just go right into it. I would do a cool flip too, I guess. Yeah, the driving in that game is just not great. Um, but let's move on to another pro. It actually does take a stealth aspect to the game, which I was really surprised about because it was a thing I hadn't noticed when I first played the game when I first got it, and when I started playing really in depth and really taking things seriously recently, you can approach missions either aggressive and just fire away, let enemies come at you and shoot them down, cover base shooting, or you can do it in a stealth way with takedowns, silenced weapons, or just general sneaking around a person. I actually really like that. That's something that's very rare in a lot of games. Missions that are meant to be played in both ways without absolutely destroying the core mechanic of the game. Yes, there are some missions where you're gonna have to take it aggressive, and yes, there are some missions where you're gonna have to take it in the stealth aspect. But regardless, every other mission is universal into whichever one you want to take it in. And I always went the stealth route because it was way easier and way funner, of course. Um, there are silenced weapons in the game, but they're not as easy to get as just buying. A lot of them come as progression rewards, and progression rewards in the game is the more of a collectible you get, or the more of whatever you do. You can either get a gun, or you unlock certain guns, you unlock certain cars, unlock certain upgrades for Aiden Pierce himself, and I like that. That was all really great, because it sort of was like it definitely made me feel like there was an aspect of this where I'm not just doing this as easy. There's no easy way out at first. Like, I have to actually put an effort into the game in order to get a stronger weapon or a silenced weapon. For the first, I would say, third of the game, I had to do most of the stealth with a pistol, which at first was great because it was like, oh, I'm James Bond, you know, but then after a while it started to suck because I couldn't get the range that I needed, and so I was like, okay, I need to go do a lot of other things. Finally got a rifle that was suppressed, and fantastic. And what goes hand in hand as well, really quickly, was all those sounds. A lot of the sound design is fantastic. It's really good, especially for the guns. They sound a little too realistic at times. Each of the guns obviously has different sounds that are in tune with what gun they are. If you're having a very heavy weapon, they have a very heavy sound. If you're having a gun that's a little lighter, of course, it compensates for that. Pistols and such. Everything has a very different and unique sound that definitely sounds like it's its own gun. And that's really good. Which leads me into my next sort of con. Ammo. I never, ever, ever had a problem where I ran out of ammunition. And even if for the moments where it was like, oh no, my ammo might be low, I would just walk over a body and get more ammo. And I'm not saying that they should have taken that out, but they should have just considered that a little more to make it harder. Because it felt like I would shoot down like 50 different enemies, and then I would still be fine for another 100. Um, if not just completely refill and do more and have more ammo than I actually need. And the couple of times that I went to buy ammunition from a place that sold ammunition was just because I went, I guess I'll check this out. And it was like, oh, you only have 5 bullets less than the maximum for here, or 1 bullet there. It never felt like I ran out of ammo, which was kind of a bad thing, because I feel like it would have made it a lot harder if I had to constantly consider, oh no, I might not have enough ammo for this, I might have to switch, or if I do have to switch, oh no, is it a weapon that's quiet enough for me to switch to, or do I have to go full on aggressive with this? Um, and yeah, it just never felt like it always felt like I had way too much ammo. There was a mission where I was on a catwalk above sort of basically just an arena where enemies kept spawning in or driving in to fight me, and I just constantly kept shooting and shooting and shooting, and then when I thought I was getting low on ammo, I would make like a left turn and look, here's a box full of ammunition. It just sometimes felt so like abundant for no reason. Yeah. But another pro, let's move on to that. Collectibles. It's a collectathon game. It's a Ubisoft game. It's a collectathon game. Thank you to Banjo and Kazooie all those years ago, and maybe even some more predecessors before it. But Banjo and Kazooie, I would say, would be the big forerunners for collectathons. But just making all these open world games just full of collectibles. GTA games are full of collectibles. Saints Row games, full of collectibles. Assassin's Creed games, full of them. And guess what? Watch Dogs is full of them too. And they always, to me at least, felt rewarding. There was never any collectible where I went, oh, why did I do that? That was a waste of my time. It was like, yes, okay, I needed that. And there are plenty. There are plenty. I've spent, I would say, a total of maybe like 40 hours in the game already, and I still haven't gotten all of them. But that's about something different, which we'll get to in a minute. But yeah, there are plenty. And they're never really extremely hard to get to or understand. I actually really like a lot of them because they sort of mess with aspects of the game. I think some of my favorite ones were the QR code ones, which didn't really have a really great ending, but regardless, they were fun. The basic gist of the QR code collectibles were, it was kind of a puzzle, where you would see part of a QR code and you would have to find a specific camera to get the right aspect to get all of the QR code so you could scan it, find the next audio file, and then get to another QR code. And it was always fun because it was like, sometimes they were really huge and you would have to really go like almost a mile the other way to find the right camera to get the aspect perfect. Sometimes they were, it would be put on one building and you would think, oh, the building next to it's going to have it, and it wouldn't. It would be on a billboard and you would have to, again, keep finding these different camera aspects and scan it right. And those were really fun. I really liked those. There are, of course, some ones that took place, or that did the sort of, how good is your parkour skills kind of thing, where you had to climb up a certain way and open certain gates and doors and such and climb over certain places in order to get whatever it was. There was a couple of them. Those were always really fun too. I never really had a problem with them. There was never one where I was like, how do I even climb this thing? It was always like, yeah, okay, I think I get how. There's only one instance I can think of where I was confused, but it was my own fault. It was literally like, just look up. I was like, oh, okay, I got it. A lot of the collectibles are a lot like this, though. A lot of puzzles and little just things to kind of change the aspect of the world in a way where it wasn't just like, oh, I'm a guy running around shooting a gun. It was like, yeah, okay, these actually have a purpose for being here. There was some really weird collectibles that were cool because they added an aspect to the story, or not the story, but just to the game in general. Like You would find random dead bodies all around that were hidden, basically, and they would have audio files and other notes sort of detailing like this person who was clearly mentally unsound. He was insane, basically. He killed these people because he felt like he was being watched, and he felt like things were going wrong and then whatever. And you had to find all the bodies so that you could pinpoint who it was, because it was pretty much unknown as to who it was. And the other thing that was really cool about it too was the people who were killed were reported as missing through the news, and when you find them all, finally, it's, oh, we know who did it, and whatever. But of course, never any praise for who actually found him, but, whatever. That's a basic story writing rule when it comes to vigilante kind of characters. Which leads me, going from this sort of collectible thing, the pros of how collectibles are, leads me to my con about collectibles, and it's the most frustrating thing in the game, at least for me. And it's, you can never find every collectible. They're hidden behind something new every single time I was playing it. I would get to about 2/3 of the way through whatever the collectible would be, and the new hidden thing behind it was, oh, you have to finish a certain amount of the story missions. You have to unlock this part of the map. You have to do this. The first thing I did when I started playing the game was unlock all of the map of Chicago. Every single stupid little tower thing or whatever, like every freaking Ubisoft game, Far Cry and Assassin's Creed. Oh, you gotta get to the highest point to unlock all the part of the city. Which again was another like parkour puzzle. How do I climb up a bit, Got all of those so that I could get all the collectibles, and I still can't get them all. There are collectibles that are just, they elude me because of the map and because of the game. I finished the game's story all the way through, and now I'm in the end game, just basically free roam mode, and I still cannot find all the collectibles. There are collectibles that are hidden by the map itself. If you zoom out too much of the map, you will not be able to see where collectibles are on the map. If you zoom too close in, you'll be able to see them, sure, but you can only see a certain amount in a very zoomed in view, and it sucks. I hate it so much. It's the most frustrating thing in the game, because I just want to get all the collectibles. And at every turning point that I've made, the game refuses to let me just get them all, and it's really frustrating. There's a lot of really good collectibles that are just 4 or 5 away left before I get them all, or even just like, oh, where is this one that I clearly can't see for some reason? And sometimes I would maybe spend like an extra 2 or 3 minutes combing through the map over and over again, because I thought maybe I just overlooked it, because of course there's a lot of items on the screen, and that maybe I gotta find it and look a little bit closer. Nope, never the case. Always was, you gotta do this mission, you gotta do this, you gotta save this person, you gotta do a certain amount of these. And the other thing that really sucked about the collectibles is most of the endings were just bummers. They just ended. They were flaccid endings. Like I said, the mystery, the finding the dead bodies of the missing people, even that one kind of ended boring, because it was just like, oh, profile the guy, find him for the crime, chase him, take him down. The end. Never there's never I took him to jail, or I made him confess or anything, and uploaded the confession MP3 to the CTOS network. It was always just, oh, look, I caught him, run away, go to the next collectible. And sometimes there were collectibles where it was like, you would get through 99% of them, one left, and it would take like an in-game day where you would have to go to sleep in order to unlock the final mission of them all. And it was stupid. I hated it. I hated that the collectibles are still hidden for me. I'm still trying to find all of them, and I can't. I'm getting to the point where I'm going to have to start looking up like walkthroughs or like videos on YouTube. I'm just like, oh, where are the last of these collectibles? I fully suspect that I'm going to find a bunch of forum posts on like GameFAQs or Reddit or something that are just like, where are the last of these collectibles? I can't seem to find them. And then a bunch of other people are like, yeah, they hide them here where they are. because that's what it keeps doing to me, and I hate it. I can't. I just don't get it. It's stupid. And then to move on to another con, because there's so many more. The DLC. It. I thought maybe that the DLC was why I thought there were hidden collectibles that I hadn't found. I thought maybe the DLC, like the main DLC mission, was adding things that I hadn't seen. So I was trying to access that part of it, but it just, I had no interest in it, and it has nothing to do with the collectibles in the game. It adds like a new mode and some like co-op mode and other things, and of course whatever new story, but overall it doesn't add anything as far as to the world's collectibles. So again, the DLC is weak. It's about a character it's about a character you only see in like the last quarter of the game, maybe third at the most. He just has nothing to do with any of the game up until the end of it, basically, and he's a shitty character. He's just this kind of redneck dude who's up in the northern parts of Pawnee, Illinois, and he's just an asshole drunk, and he's got a trucker hat and dreads, and he's a major hacker. He's stupid. He was a dumb character, and it was dumb to try and do a DLC that was all about him. Not about the main character or even another character I could think of who would be way better suited for the DLC. The DLC sucked, and then the only other DLC that came with it is all cosmetic. New costumes, new colors for your costume, new hat. Oh, new hat. The only, like, 2 DLCs from it, or the only 2 cosmetic DLCs that I found that were actually like, oh yeah, I kind of like these, were there these 20s gangster DLCs, which are, of course fits in with the theme of Chicago, where Aiden Pierce dresses like a mobster and you get a Tommy gun, and they're both fantastic and they're fun because I get it. It's like, oh yeah, it fits in with the aspect of the world of Chicago, but every other cosmetic DLC was just the colors for the colors of it. It was like, oh look, now he's orange. Look, he looks like an army soldier now. He's wearing all camo. It was stupid. DLC was not great. It wasn't like I felt like it was a waste of the $20 for the season pass, but it was still not fantastic. Especially when, again, like I said, it's taken up by a chunk of a character you just do not care about. Even a prequel kind of DLC would have done way better than whatever that stuff was. Anyway, God. Calm it down here. Animations. Even on the PS3, the animations in this game are fantastic. They're some of the highest quality animations I've ever seen for a character that makes him feel so natural, so realistic, and so just free-flowing. And I know that sounds weird talking in the aspect of a digital character, but they're really, really good. They're far better than I thought they would be. There are still animations that I'm finding that I just have never seen once in my life. There are animations for things that you didn't even think there'd be animations for. It was kind of one of the main draws for me for when I saw the game back, like I said, with the E3 trailer, was you're walking you're walking through a crosswalk where a bunch of cars are passing. You see a car about to come. You make him rush a little bit. When he gets to the corner on the sidewalk, he kind of does like a slow down animation to kind of brace himself and stop so he's not running so much. And that's in the game, as well as a million other cool little animations. There's a lot of cool animations for things like you'll be next to something that blows up, and even if you're not necessarily affected damage-wise to what blew up, your character will sort of, depending on the amount of distance he is from said explosion, he'll either, feel the impact of it and kind of stumble while walking, or if he's really close, but like I said, not damaged to it, he'll fly back. And that's awesome. I really like a lot of the animations in this game. There's animations for if you're walking through the street and you see a car coming and you just barely dodge it, you can see him put his hand sort of to kind of stop the car, or rather stop himself from hitting the car, maybe push himself off. There's animations for everything that you could possibly think of. There's animations for sliding over a car, like in the movies and such. Yeah, a lot of the animations in this game are really good, and they feel, like I said, natural and free flowing, and it's awesome. And there are these little AR games in the game. They're little mini games. There are two that I can. There are only two I can think of, technically two. One is a sort of like shooting thing, little fake pixel alien things come out of the sky and you got to shoot them before they transform. That one I didn't necessarily care about because it just didn't look great. The other one I cared about more, which was a cash trail thing. Basically, these virtual coins will come up. You have to collect them. There are virtual little skulls that you have to avoid. You have to run through certain parts of the city and do your parkour right. Now, at first I didn't really think anything of these little games, specifically this one. I just thought like, oh yeah, it's a fun little time waster. But then I realized there was a point to it. Maybe not necessarily made for the point, but they add a different perspective, which is timing to animations. A lot of the base part of this game relies around having to kind of parkour around different sort of obstacles, whether it be sliding over them, climbing up them, jumping down them, and all the ways in between and outward. And at first, like I said, I was like, oh yeah, okay, parkour for parkour's sake. But it actually teaches you about timing. If you don't time certain jumps right or certain climb ups right, you can get different versions. You can either get them too early, where you just bump into whatever it is and have to do a slow climb, or you can do it too late, where you do a very slow climb, or if you do it in just the sweet spot with the perfect timing, swift and quick, and you keep moving on. And it was awesome, especially because the coin thing, the cash trail, is timed. So you really want that sort of manipulation of the milliseconds, essentially. Sometimes it came down to the wire where it was like, oh no, I've only got like a second and like some milliseconds before I mess up and I've lost the record. And it all comes down to because of those animations and timing them right. Because if you don't do them right, you of course lose way more seconds than you would if you did them perfectly. And it just shows, it goes to show that the animations in this game are great, and I can't imagine that they're not better in other games as well. You could definitely see that coinciding with the release of this game. Even Assassin's Creed games are kind of getting better in their animations. With Black Flag being the most recent release at the time, even there you can see a lot of the animations were getting better and way more natural feeling and realistic. And in Watch Dogs, they went the full regalia with it all, and it feels and looks fantastic. And that was a thing about the game that I like, because it every time I play it, it still feels different when I'm running and walking and doing different things, because I'm still finding new animations that I hadn't seen before, or new animations that I didn't even think could be in there, but it's jam packed. So yeah. Now let's move on to a con. This one kind of comes out of nowhere, I should say, but there really isn't a segue into this one, so whatever. But stealth. To go back to stealth. Not that great. Great in missions where you can, like I said, switch between going aggressive or being stealthy, or taking it with a stealth, whatever. Basically, just if it's a mission dependent on stealth or whatever dependent on stealth, it can be massive amounts of auto fails before you get it right the first time, or before you can even complete it. And they always sometimes just have these really weird auto fail feelings to them. Just sometimes it just feels very trivial as to how an enemy will see you. There's a thing that I wish it did, which would take from Metal Gear, the Metal Gear franchise, which is a vision cone. And I know that's technically stupid because, of course, why would a vision cone be real? But it's a video game, and I wish that you could see vision cones on your minimap, because it would definitely help with a lot of these missions and other things where you can autofill them the moment you're seen. And I don't know, it feels like it would just be this tiny little thing that you can add in. Maybe not tiny, but just something small to add into the game that would definitely help with these stealth sections like that are forced stealth. But, you know, whatever, I guess. This is complaining 4 years after the game came out, so, you know, again, what's kind of, not the point, but, you know, these are probably things I'll fix in the next one. Yeah. Replayability. This one doesn't go in either pros or cons. While I would technically say the replayability of the game is high, because there are a lot of collectibles, there are a lot of other mission things, like the digital trips, which I'll get into in a moment. I would say it's a very superficial kind of replayability. It's sort of like, instead of coming back to a movie because it has story that you can take in different perspectives, right? For example, you could watch the first Transformers movie, and I'm talking about the Michael Bay one. You can watch it from a perspective of this movie sucks, right? But you can also watch it from a perspective of this movie's really good. And through each of them, you can pull out different things. Through the movie sucks vision, you can take out parts of the movie that are really bad and really not well done. Whereas the movie's good vision, you can take out parts of the movie that are actually really well done and make sense. Here, it doesn't necessarily feel in that kind of... it doesn't feel kind of the same way where you can tackle the game in a different way. There is a sort of meter in the game that can lead you to far evil. It can lead. It has a couple different sections. So you have neutral. You have on the left you have evil, and the farthest of the left you have just basically the villain of all villains, the dude who basically you're Darth Vader at that point. You're blowing up planets, not caring. Or you have the right, which is a good person, a vigilante, a protector, and the far right, which is you will go out of your way to protect everyone that you can. You will make sure to never kill or hit anybody, that kind of thing. And at first, I liked that bar because I could see it changing depending on what I did. If I accidentally hit a person on the sidewalk because of the garbage driving from the game, of course I would lose points and start going to the left. If I protected a person before they had the chance to be harmed in any way, and I took down whoever tried to harm them in a way that wasn't lethal, I would go even further to the right. And I liked that. I was like, oh yeah, so then maybe there's different endings to the game, sort of. Or at least 2 different endings. Nope. It only matters for one thing in the game, and that's it. No matter how far to the left, to the right, or in the middle you are, the ending of the game is always going to be the same. The only thing that it matters for is if you're on the far evil side or anywhere near the evil side, occasionally the Chicago News thing will put out a sort of bulletin, a little like, where is Aiden Pierce? Cops are looking for him. Can you find him? And then everyone on the street around you or on the sidewalk basically will go, oh my god, it's the vigilante! And they'll start calling the police, tweeting about it or whatever, putting it out on social media to be like, oh, I just saw the vigilante. And the cops will find you really quick, lickety-split. But if you're on the far right, this will still happen where they put out something like, hey, we're trying to find him, and instead all of the citizens will refuse to give any information towards you. And that's a cool aspect of the game. I do like it, but it's overall not changing anything in the grand scheme of things. It doesn't add to the replayability. It doesn't make me want to start a new save with going far evil or a new save going far good, because it doesn't change anything in the ending, and that really affects the replayability. And like I said, the only things that you're really replaying it for isn't in the aspect of the story and how you can change the Chicago in general. It's because there's collectibles. So instead of it being high replayability because you want to take it at a different aspect or a perspective, you're instead doing it because you have this thing, this voice in the back of your head or something telling you, hey, all those collectibles in Watch Dogs, you never got them, want to go get them? And that doesn't feel great. That feels horrible, because you shouldn't have to do that for a game. That shouldn't be the reason to make me come back to it. The reason a lot of people go back to like games like the Mass Effect series is because you can take them with different aspects. You can take them going super evil renegade or Paragon, which is super good, and you'll get different endings. You'll get 6, 9 different endings sometimes. Yeah, maybe they're not all that different, but they're different endings still. Here, you only get one ending regardless of what you do. Now, there is another little thing at the end of the credits, past the credits, I guess, where Aiden Pierce finally finds the guy who basically causes all the problems that starts the story of the game. Or at least the person who's at the core of all the problems. You have the option to either shoot him or walk away. I like this idea. I really like this idea. It's that thing again. Are you full on evil or are you full on good? But it's at the end of the game, when you enter free roam mode, where that won't matter for story anymore. Even if I walked away because I figured, what's the point anyway? Even if I had shot him, what is the thing that it could do for me for the story? Nothing. I've already finished the story all the way through up until this point. I've watched all the credits to get here, and you're giving me an option that should have been given halfway through, maybe even the beginning of the game. Man. Alright. The only other things I could talk about here are the digital trips, which range from just pretty much the same thing over and over again to Spider Tank! Sorry, I had to scream that. Digital trips are, you put a little earbud in your head, you listen to these weird music, and it makes you get high in a specific way. And there are a bunch of, they're basically little mini games for Watch Dogs. There's one that's just psychedelic, where all you're doing is bouncing on happy little flowers and flying through colors. There's 2 of them that are basically the same thing. Find the robot, kill it. Kill it in a way that's stealthily in one, and the other one, kill it before it blows up a bomb. The other one that I remember was, aliens. Oh, no, sorry. No, the other one was, you're in a car, and this one was actually, I would say, the second most fun one, which was, you're in a car, and you have to hit people on the street, and the car sucks in their soul. And the car looks like something out of Mad Max, and it was fun, but it was only fun for 5 minutes. The one that I keep going back to and having fun is Spider Tank. There used to be this game on the PS1 called Jumping Flash, where you're this little bug character who shot lasers and such, and you would climb around, and it was awesome. For a PS1 game, it was amazing. You could climb on walls and ceilings, you can go fully upside down, vertical, horizontal kind of thing, shoot all around, and it was fun, it was fast, it was really fast-paced and quick for a PS1 game. And when I started up this game, the Spider Tank game in here, it felt exactly the same way. You're climbing on buildings, jumping as far as you can, shooting with either a minigun or a tank kind of cannon. You have objectives that are just hilarious to me. Like, one of the objectives is kill 22 cops. What? There's like a destroy 8 vehicles, destroy these little beacons, these satellite beacons, destroy the armored car, the train. It was awesome. I loved it, and it would last for a really long time, and I would have fun with it. And I kind of want a full game like that, but yeah, there's where the replayability goes to, right there. Spider Tank. That game is so much fun, and it has upgradables for it too, of course. Fantastic. But anyway, we're at the end of our journey here. So, Watch Dogs 4 years later, it has a lot of things wrong with it still, even after everything has been fixed to try and make it better. And of course, with the sequel being out already, it still has a lot of problems that just can't be overlooked. And I hope that they had fixed. But at the same time, it's the first in its series, like I said. It was something different and innovative in a time where, like I said, Ubisoft was just the Assassin's Creed Far Cry machine. And technically still just the Assassin's Creed machine, but now they're becoming the Assassin's Creed Far Cry machine again. But, regardless. And, nowadays they're the Assassin's Creed Far Cry Tom Clancy machine. Whereas in these days, when Watch Dogs had first came out, it was the Assassin's Creed machine. And I'm still very happy that it was something different. It was a new IP. It was taking a different aspect after having so many years of you roaming around through just old sort of locations in the past, in the 14 and 1500s and such. And it's definitely great to see a new aspect from them and a new IP, something different. But it had a lot of flaws, and I can see why a lot of people didn't really talk about it a lot when it had come out. And I can still see how it ripples to even Watch Dogs 2, where a lot of people aren't even talking about that game anymore. There was a lot of buzz around it when it first came out, but even then people still are not talking about it anymore. And hopefully that a lot of the things, like I said in here, that were really big problems were fixed in the second one, because that would be fantastic to see. But, that's all hoping, and I'll never play Watch Dogs 2 anyway, because it takes place in San Francisco with some very cringy looking characters. If I had to give this game a rating on a scale of 10, it would be a 7.2. Fun, fantastic to play, really great, with a lot of heavy flaws. I can't give it a full on, I can't give it, even the 7.2 is a little generous, because there's a lot of things in this game that just still make me angry and frustrated, and I would rather them not be there, of course. But regardless, thank you for watching the first episode of I Finally Got Around To. I'm going to try to do these at least once a month, but there's no promises here. I'm not saying that I'm going to do one every month, and I'm not going to say these are very frequent, because they would feel forced at a point if I tried to keep doing them every other week or weekly or whatever. So just know that these will come out very sporadically and whenever they can. But if you happen to like this, give it a like. If you didn't, give it a dislike or a thumbs down. If you think there's something I could do to change it or make it a little better, go ahead and write that down in the comments below. All the links for anything relating to this show and discography discussion are down in the description, which is basically just my Twitter. But yeah, thank you for watching.